Minister, I was very struck by a photograph taken by Niall Carson, carried in the Irish Daily Mail today. It shows a number of asylum seekers leaving Magowna House and walking along a small country road. The caption says that they're heading back to Dublin. The men aren't lumbered down with lots of heavy bags. They each have small backpacks and a plastic bag. Their only possessions are crammed into those small bags. It's unclear how they intend to get back to Dublin, and it's unclear where they will stay once they get there. Given they have now left IPAS accommodation, it's likely that they'll be forced to sleep rough on the streets. Minister, these people have come to this country with nothing, and we are failing them. It didn't have to be like this. The manager of Magowna House knew for 3 months that asylum seekers would be housed there, but nobody else was told. The local community was not told, local politicians were not told, not even Clare Immigrant Support Centre, who've been providing outreach services for refugees for more than 30 years, was told. Minister, the government is presiding over an increasingly chaotic response to this crisis. And there are real fears that the shameful and violent scenes we saw in Dublin at the weekend will be repeated. We all know there has been an abject failure to provide emergency accommodation. And 2 years into this crisis, there is still no strategy to engage with communities housing refugees. Joe O'Brien was appointed as a junior minister for integration to help with this work. He put together proposals in January to recruit a team to help with community engagement. But it's reported in the Examiner today that those plans stalled when they were sent to the Department of the Taoiseach. 5 months later, the Taoiseach's department are still exploring alternative models of engagement. We still have no communication strategy. Minister Joe O'Brien was appointed to the integration brief to help with this effort, but how can he when his plans are put on hold? It appears that Minister Roderick O'Gorman is on his own. At least that's the view of the Green Party. Green Party Senator Roisin Garvey told Morning Ireland today that Minister O'Gorman has been, quote, thrown under a bus. There are also reports of increasing tensions between the Integration Minister and the Housing Minister. Senator Garvey implored people not to play politics with this issue, but it appears the only people playing politics are sitting at Cabinet table. Minister, do you agree that Minister O'Gorman has been thrown under the bus and left to deal with this issue alone? When will the government publish its communication strategy for local communities housing refugees?
Thank you, Deputy Kearns. Minister.
I want to thank Deputy Kearns for raising a very important issue, and I think an issue that is on the mind of people right across this country. This week I know we had an opportunity in the House yesterday to reflect on the horrific scenes in Dublin, and you are rightly raising the issue in County Clare today. Firstly, I want to be very clear, Minister O'Gorman is leading an incredible effort to the largest humanitarian crisis that probably any of us have lived through, and we're all working tirelessly to support him. And there's very concrete examples of that beyond words. If you take my own Department of Further and Higher Education, it means providing student accommodation during the summer months to the national effort. If you take the Department of Justice, it means identifying and providing the Thornton Hall site. If you take the Department of Defence, it means providing a number of sites, including Kilbride in my own constituency, or Colin Barracks in Mullingar. If you take the work of my colleague Minister O'Donovan in terms of the OPW and the rollout of rapid build housing, with the first due to come on stream. Are you in favour of it or against it?
Deputy Gould.
Rein in your councillor, Limerick.
Rein in your councillor, if you know what you're talking about.
Minister, please don't provoke the deputy. Doesn't take much to provoke him.
I'm sorry,
take it easy now.
There's some issues that I think are more important than shouting at each other across the chamber. This is a very serious issue. And I just want to assure Deputy Kearns that the entire government and the Cabinet Committee chaired by the Taoiseach is coordinating the effort in relation to this. I also, for the information of the House, want to confirm that Minister O'Gorman now intends to open 350 additional beds this week, and that will make a very significant difference, and there's been a huge amount of work to get to that point, and I want to acknowledge that. I also want to say that when you ask about community engagement, my understanding is that the tender for that has now gone out, and Minister Joe O'Brien is leading that effort. But in relation to community engagement, it is important that we also provide financial assistance for communities that have opened their hearts, their homes, their facilities to help with this humanitarian effort. And this week, the government will announce the allocation of a €50 million fund, which will see every county in Ireland receive a level of funding as well. Look, I do think there needs to be, if you don't mind me saying so respectfully, a degree of fairness in terms of the commentary in relation to this. Ireland's response has not been perfect. I'm not sure any country's has. But we have achieved an awful lot together as a country, and the government has done an awful lot in a short period of time. I was just this morning looking at the figures before the COVID pandemic, before the war in Ukraine. I think we saw 4,781 people come to Ireland and seek protection. We've seen over 100,000 over the course of the last year or thereabouts. That is a huge, huge challenge, and we have to be honest. Governments to be honest, everyone's to be honest. People are entitled to come here. People are entitled to seek protection. But we also have to be very honest about the accommodation challenges that we do face. We are working not on a daily basis, but on an hourly basis to try and come up with solutions. And the conversation at Cabinet, not that we discussed Cabinet, but for clarity, yesterday was about what we can do immediately right now to help with the very acute situation regarding tents, and then moving beyond that, how we can progress and turbocharge the progression, if you like, at a number of the sites that have been identified for both rapid build housing, pods and other approaches. Thank you.
Deputy Kearns.
Minister, modular housing was supposed to come on stream last November. Not a single unit has been delivered. Is that rapid in your opinion? Accommodation services are in crisis, but when Baggot Street Hospital was proposed as an accommodation centre, we were told it would take 9 months to do a feasibility study. 9 months for a feasibility study. Does that scream urgency and emergency to you? Nobody's underestimating the task that Roderick O'Gorman has. That's why we're asking if other cabinet ministers are pulling their weight, because he and his staff seem to be very much alone in this. He has repeatedly implored cabinet colleagues to locate accommodation, and at one time when he put out one of those calls, one department, that was Defence, came back with one location. And then the feasibility studies launched. His junior minister can't even get the Taoiseach to sign off on a communication strategy for local communities. So, Minister, who's in charge here? You're saying the Cabinet's doing everything it can, the Taoiseach's saying the same, but there's absolutely no evidence of that. Because it seems Cabinet's at war and there's a complete lack of a coordinated approach. When will you sign off on the proposal for the community engagement?
Minister.
Well, that'll be a matter for Minister Joe O'Brien, who's working very intensively on this and already has...
He's waiting 5 months to hear back from the Taoiseach about whether or not it can be approved.
You don't need to speak for Minister O'Brien, he can speak for himself. Minister O'Brien is already working very, very hard and making a real difference in relation to this. You implored government not to play politics with this. I'd respectfully suggest the same. The reality of the situation is the number... Well, it's not fair to... It's not... Lads, I don't need any help. It's not fair to suggest that moving from 4,700 people seeking protection in our country to 100,000 people is a seamless transition. That's not fair. I'm aware of the questions that I was asked. I was asked questions in relation to the community engagement plan. I've said that has gone to tender in the last 2 weeks. I was asked questions in relation to how we're going to further support communities. I've outlined that we're going to announce a €50 million allocation to communities this week. I'm absolutely assuring the Deputy, and the facts do bear this out, that every government department has contributed to the national effort, and every person in Ireland in many ways is contributing too. We are making real progress, but we've got to be honest with people. There isn't one singular thing we can do, and this requires hourly work across government, and that is in place.